From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join the exchange because your business is our business. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas raises key interest rates yet again to temper surging prices. But this comes at a cost. Loans will get more expensive for those hoping to buy their own homes, cars, or fund their businesses' needs. Remittances from overseas Filipinos could also take a hit as the central bank's move should strengthen the peso against the mighty dollar. How are borrowers adjusting at a time of high borrowing costs? The vision for adaptability and resourcefulness in our C-suite vision. The cost of borrowing has now soared to 5% after the Bangko Sentral approved another rate hike by 3/4 of a point. The move seeks to slow the increase in prices of basic goods and support the peso against the US dollar. Joining us now for his insights is former Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Jose Cuisia, joining us from New York. Gov, thank you so much for joining us. Will this latest aggressive rate hike of the Bangko Sentral tame inflation from near 14-year highs of 7.7% in October?
Well, I think it depends because, if the oil prices continue to decelerate as we have been seeing the past weeks, it's down to $81 per barrel, then I think there's a good chance that inflation will start slowing down. Mm-hmm. Especially if there is a negotiation that will lead to peace between Russia and Ukraine. So that of course is the hope of a lot of people.
But geopolitical analysts are saying we may not see any peace between Russia and the Ukraine anytime soon, with Putin continuing to be aggressive with his attacks on the Ukraine. And Gov, amid surging prices, what do you think is right now in the mindset of the Monetary Board after hiking rates by 3/4 of a percentage point? Is there a need for another one, you think, if prices continue to go up in December and towards the first quarter of next year?
Well, if prices continue to go up and the Fed continues to also increase interest rates, which they're expected to do, perhaps at a slower pace, then of course the BSP will have no choice. However, there are also very encouraging signs that the US Fed is thinking about lower hikes.
What would be that lower rate hike? 1/4% or 0.5%?
I think they're talking about 50 basis points and possibly a 25 basis points in the next meeting in January. So if that happens, then I think the BSP can consider a lower rate hike.
If that is the case, another 0.5% rate hike in the December meeting of the BSP will raise the cost of borrowing to 5.5%. What kind of an impact will this have on the economy, which expanded by 7.6%, Gov, in October?
Well, of course, it will have some impact, but you saw that the past 3 months, or past 4 months, the BSP has been raising the rates, and yet the growth has been quite good at 7.6% for the third quarter. So it will, of course, have some impact, but I think we will still see a respectable growth for the fourth quarter and even the first quarter of 2023.
So, Gov,
yes, mortgage rates will be higher, and consumer loan rates will also go up.
Right.
That may have dampened, the purchasing, desires of consumers. But I think we have shown resilience. The economy
Yeah.
has been quite resilient. So I think we will continue to see a fairly good growth for 2023,
Yeah.
despite the rate hikes.
A lot of people are saying that this is revenge spending because we are easing restrictions. And of course, you just have the holiday season spending right around the corner. But Gov, how long will our kababayans have to wait before prices go down?
I think we will start seeing a slowdown or slowing down of the inflation rate probably in about 2 to 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's my expectation. Because, of course, the rate hikes have had an impact and will continue to have an impact. Go
So,
ahead,
Governor,
Rico.
what is your year-end forecast for inflation, one, and two, the peso against the US dollar?
Very difficult to make predictions, but I would say that we will see inflation probably below 7% before the end of the year. It hit, I know, 7 points. Was it 7.7
7.7, yes. That's
in
right, Gov.
October? Yeah, but I would guess, of course, it is a guess that it would probably be below 7. Of course, the average will still be probably in the 6% range, no?
Yeah.
6 to 7%. But the year-end rate will probably be below 7.
And the Philippine peso, your forecast?
Well, it's more a hope rather than a prediction that I hope that it will come down to a level of 56 to $1 by the end of the year.
Thank you so much, Governor Quisha, for this monetary policy exchange. Former BSP boss Jose Quisha. And now here's a rundown of this week's top business stories. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas sees inflation accelerating this year and next amid persistent price pressures before slowing down in 2024. Credit watcher S&P Global keeps its BBB plus rating for the country, one notch away from the administration's target rating and stable outlook given the economy's healthy rebound amid the pandemic. And tourism arrival numbers surpassed the DOT's year-end target of more than 2 million in early November amid looser COVID-19 restrictions. And straight ahead on the exchange, where your business is our business. Will higher interest rates dampen borrowing, or is it lending as usual for Filipinos? And what is the ripple effect on overseas workers sending money back home? We'll have an exchange with the Rural Bankers Association of the Philippines and remittance company iRemit. And how are businesses adjusting to more expensive loans? We speak to the Philippine Retailers Association. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Glad you're staying with us right here on the exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Taking out a loan for a car or house now comes at a higher price, with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas raising the cost of borrowing once again. And how will this attempt to prop up the peso against the dollar affect remittances from our kababayans overseas? We now have an exchange with Rural Bankers Association of the Philippines President Mary Ann Tupasi Sadul and iRemit co-founder Bansan Choa. Thank you so much to you both for joining us on the program. Mary Ann, let's start off with you. With the Bangko Sentral now raising rates aggressively over the past few months, ngayon na 5%. Do you see Filipinos being discouraged from borrowing from banks?
Rico, I would probably make a differentiation or distinguish between where they borrow. Insofar as rural banks and cooperative banks, which includes microfinance-oriented rural banks and cooperative banks, the impact of using interest rates has not been as significant as expected. In fact, we have observed the opposite, as direct exposures in the form of loans to MSMEs have actually seen a modest increase when we compare quarter-end figures for March versus June 2022. The MSMEs have a strong motivation to patronize rural bank and cooperative banks, given that number one, their credit needs are often too small for bigger banks to service. Number two, the leaner decision-making structures of rural and cooperative banks also translates to a faster turnaround. And with the economy actually opening up, people need capital.
All right. So with many companies borrowing from rural banks, this has also propped up the economy. We saw very encouraging numbers in the last quarter of 7.6%. Bansan, let me ask you, with the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Central Bank, aggressively raising the cost of borrowing, this has led to the U.S. dollar strength and the weaker peso. So have more overseas Filipinos been sending more money back home with the depreciation of our currency?
The remittance is always a seasonal item. If you are talking between November until the first month of January for next year, there will be a lot of overseas Filipino worker that is coming back. And they will be bringing a lot of US dollar that is not affected by the exchange rate. This is what was missing for the last 3 years. Most of the people that were able to come back were not able to bring in the US dollar that they have earned. If you look at the history, there are about 10 billion US dollar a year that comes to the Philippines, not in form of remittance, but in form of being brought back by the OFW who comes and visit them. So I would expect that until first month of 2023, the rate of the exchange should not be very far from what it is now, which is 57 pesos.
Yes.
Most likely,
So Bansan,
I don't expect it to be much lower because they will be also spending much more during the Christmas holidays.
so which countries, Bansan, are the top sources of remittances from Filipinos abroad?
41.7% of the remittances come from the USA. And then Singapore, 6.9%. Saudi Arabia, 5.8%. Japan, 4.9%. United Kingdom, 4.9%. And UAE, 4.1%. This total constitute about 79.9% of the total remittances for the first 8 months of 2022.
So, Mary Ann, tell us, which types of loans remain popular among micro, small, and medium enterprises despite the higher interest rates?
Well, I guess we identified that there are really pandemic or inflation-proof sectors like the agriculture, the basic delivery of needs for food production, basic services, and the like. Most of these are the clients of rural banks and cooperative banks. So life goes on for them. It's not only that we need to eat, but they also need to survive. So there's a great demand in that sector, and they come to us.
And Bansan, net, does rising prices and higher inflation offset the weakness of the peso when the foreign currency is remitted to the relatives back home?
Okay. I'll give a definite example now. And I'm relating it to the real estate investment of OFW. If you notice, irregardless of the inflation or irregardless of the exchange rate, if they wanted to buy a home, they would prefer to buy it now rather than buy it later because of the cost of construction. The cost will always increase regardless of the exchange rate. So what is more important is if there's a need or there's no need. And if there of the requirement for them to borrow money, is it better to borrow from banks or to borrow for Pag-ibig Fund if they wanted housing loan?
Thank you so much for this borrowing and remittances exchange. Rural Bankers Association, the Philippines President, Mary Ann Tupasi Sadul, and iRemit co-founder, Bansan Choa. And straight ahead on the exchange, where your business is our business. Business owners are bracing for even more expensive loans with the BSP's latest rate adjustment. How is the retail sector coping? We'll have an exchange with the Philippine Retailers Association President, Rosemary Ong. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Welcome back right here on the exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Loans serve as additional support for businesses, whether for expanding operations or as backup funding. How are owners adapting to the higher cost of borrowing? Let's now have an exchange with Philippine Retailers Association President Rosemary Ong. Rosemary, great to have you with us. We heard earlier from the rural bankers that it is the opposite. No? Even though you have higher interest rates, it's not discouraging micro, small, and medium enterprises from borrowing money. Is it the same for the retailers?
Actually, KJ, this headwinds, no? I mean, the propensity to shop is starting to rebound already. We've seen revenge shopping, people are starting to go out already. And, with all indications, I think we're good, no? Probably until the year ends. And we've listened to your earlier guests, no? And they were talking about, Christmas is approaching. So people will still, continue. Because Philippines is a consumer-driven economy, no? So we expect people to still go out and shop with many of the employees receiving their bonuses already or their 13-month pay. And of course, remittances coming from, OFWs. I guess retail should be good, no? And we've seen that in the past months.
So retail should be good this November and December. But will the situation start to look depressing or dire in the first quarter of next year when people start to save money after spending during the holiday season?
Historically, even if there's, high interest rate, people, Filipinos, they not too many Filipinos would deposit or would save in the bank, no? They really love spending, no? And I was listening that interest hike is really inversely related when it comes to expansions and growth, no? But it really depends on the business, no? On the point of the business, if you're debt-free, definitely you would push through with your expansion plans because it's an opportunity for you since some of your peers are probably challenged, no? And on the point of view of the, of the consumer, if depending on what product, no, or what sector we're talking about, no, but if it's a necessity, definitely you still have to buy. And if you're into home improvement or building, people will still continue with their construction because it's going to be more costly if you stop construction or if you delay construction, So we should be good until probably first half of next year, first quarter of the second quarter of next year.
Well, that's very good news because we're now at 5%, which is basically back to pre-pandemic levels. And the Fed and the BSP could raise interest rates again by another 0.5%. So that puts it at 5.5%. Aren't retailers starting to pass on their higher operational and overhead costs to the consumer? Or are they still holding back?
Actually, the strategy depends on, some retailers, they apply like granular pricing, no? Because you don't want to be off the market and you don't want to lose, the trust of your consumer or your customer, no? So what probably some retailers do is that, they spread out the price on those less vulnerable items or products, no? And then those that are, very vulnerable, probably, they would absorb the pricing, no? So it really depends on how, and of course, depending on the sector also, no? If there's, like, for example, if there's sector that are very, when it comes to trade, no? I mean, the price transfer would happen on the arrival of the goods, no, not really on the whole goods itself across the products or across your inventory.
And when you say arrival of the products, because a lot of our retailers import their products from overseas. Some of them even 90 to 95% are imported from abroad. And now you have the BSP aggressively hiking rates. We saw the peso at 59. Now it's closer to 57 against the US dollar. How has the local currency's appreciation impacted retailers?
Well, for trade, normally you passed on the cost, no? But as I've mentioned, you do it on a granular approach, no? So depending on the resilience, or depending on how resilient that sector is, no? Like for example, for home improvement, I've mentioned that it will be more costly for you to stop whatever plans you have in your building or your construction, rather than do it now, because definitely price will still go up, and there's no historically, like for example for hard goods, it doesn't go down, no. It only happens for those resilient sector like food, basic commodities. Prices go down because those are regulated, no. But those non-regulated goods, they don't go down, no. So it continue to go up. So it might as well do it now, or might as well do whatever expand, or whatever construction plans or improvement plans you have in mind.
But Rosemary, apart from construction and home improvement, what about the other sectors in the retail industry? How are they coping? Like food or wellness?
Okay, so now we've seen entertainment, this high density retail, it's going back already, so definitely it will have a domino effect on all. People are going out, like for example, entertainment, it's a whole family going to the mall. So there's really opportunity, for all the other segments, or for all the other sectors, So I think what most retailers do is that they segmentize it, like for example, I've seen many of the retailers that were really hardly hit, especially those vulnerable sectors, so what they do, they shift to other sectors that are more resilient, so really it's really more of rethinking and re-strategizing your approach and business,
Smart strategies and pivoting to more profitable businesses. Indeed, despite rising interest rates and a weak peso, the Filipino is resilient during tough times. Thank you so much for this Business Adjustment Exchange, Philippine Retailers Association President Rosemary Ong. And this is the exchange who makes sense of the facts and the figures and the ups and downs of the business cycle, because your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Thanks for watching CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust.